In the late 1970s, miners working near Ottosdal, South Africa, unearthed a collection of perfectly spherical metal objects buried inside 3-billion-year-old pyrophyllite rock. Each sphere measured about an inch across and bore 3 parallel grooves encircling its equator, as if it had been lathed with machine precision. But according to mainstream archaeology, no advanced tool-making civilization existed on Earth at that time. When geologists from the University of Witwatersrand tested the composition, they found nickel-steel alloys, too pure to have formed naturally. Others claimed the objects spun slightly when disturbed, as if balanced around an inner axis. Their manufacture was impossible for prehistoric humans, and yet they were sealed in rock dating billions of years before human life appeared. Shortly after the findings drew public attention, the spheres were quietly removed from museum display. Reports disappeared from scientific journals, and researchers who spoke about them were dismissed as pseudo-scientists. Today, only a few photographs remain, the specimens themselves locked away in private collections or untraceable archives. If authentic, the Klerksdorp Spheres suggest that an unknown intelligence, perhaps not human, possessed technological abilities billions of years ago. They challenge our entire timeline of civilization and hint that Earth has been visited or inhabited by advanced beings long before recorded history. But this was only the beginning, the first crack in our accepted timeline. Number 2. The Baghdad Battery, electricity before modern history. In 1938, during excavations near Baghdad, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig discovered a small clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod sealed with asphalt. The object looked ordinary, until modern analysis revealed it could generate an electric charge when filled with an acidic liquid. The artifact dated back more than 2,000 years, long before the official invention of electricity. Tests conducted by German scientists in the 1930s confirmed that the so-called Baghdad Battery produced between 1 and 2 volts of current, enough to power simple electrochemical reactions, possibly for gilding or medical treatment. Ancient texts even describe divine fire used by priests to plate gold onto idols. The precision of the jar's construction and the purity of the metals suggested knowledge far beyond the scientific understanding of that era. But when the discovery began attracting attention, the artifact vanished from the Iraqi museum shortly after the 2003 invasion. Official statements claimed it was lost or destroyed during the conflict, yet photographs taken years earlier show it intact in storage. Replicas tested by engineers still work, silently proving that someone, somewhere, knew how to harness electricity millennia ago. If genuine, the Baghdad Battery challenges our entire concept of technological evolution. It suggests that the ancients may have possessed, or inherited, knowledge of energy generation long before the modern world rediscovered it. And this was only the second clue in a growing pattern of forgotten genius deliberately buried by time. Number 3. The Piri Reis Map, traces of a lost global knowledge. In 1929, a group of historians cataloging old documents in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace made a discovery that shook the academic world. A fragment of a world map drawn on gazelle skin by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis in 1513. The map accurately depicted the western coasts of Africa and South America, centuries before precise navigation tools existed. But the most disturbing detail was at the southern edge, a clear outline of Antarctica, drawn without ice. According to official science, Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1818, and it has been covered in ice for at least 6,000 years. Yet the Piri Reis Map showed not only its shape, but even mountain ranges hidden beneath the ice. Features that match modern seismic surveys perfectly. Piri Reis himself wrote that his map was based on older sources, some said to date back to the time of Alexander the Great. After its discovery, the map was examined by the U.S. Navy and later classified. Portions of the analysis vanished from archives, and references to it were quietly removed from university libraries. The few copies that circulated publicly were labeled inaccurate despite their verified precision. If authentic, the Piri Reis Map implies that an ancient seafaring civilization mapped the Earth long before modern history began. one that possessed advanced knowledge of geography, astronomy, and possibly aerial observation. And still, it was only another page torn from a history humanity was never meant to remember. Number 4. The Saqqara Bird, Ancient Aerodynamics. In 1898, workers excavating a tomb at Saqqara, Egypt, uncovered a small wooden object that looked nothing like the artifacts around it. Carved more than 2,000 years ago, it had the body of a bird, but wings shaped like those of a modern airplane. Its tail was vertical, not horizontal, designed like a rudder. The Saqqara bird was unlike any known Egyptian representation of animals or gods. When aeronautical engineers examined replicas of the artifact, they found it could glide when adjusted with a stabilizer on the tail, functioning much like a small glider. Its proportions matched modern aerodynamic ratios within a few millimeters. Ancient Egyptian writings even mentioned the power of Ra that could lift objects into the air. Egyptologists dismissed the find as a child's toy or a ceremonial carving. Yet in the 1970s, researchers from the Egyptian Museum confirmed that the artifact demonstrated aerodynamic lift, centuries before the concept of flight existed. Shortly after, further tests were restricted, and the artifact was moved from public display into storage. If authentic, the Saqqara bird proves that the ancient Egyptians understood principles of flight long before the Wright brothers. It raises a haunting question. Was it inspired by observation or by something seen in the sky? And still, this was just another fragment of a forgotten science buried beneath the sands of time. Number 5. The Antikythera Mechanism, the computer of the ancients. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island Antikythera discovered a corroded lump of bronze and wood. When it was cleaned, scientists found something extraordinary inside: a complex system of gears, dials, and inscriptions. A machine older than 2,000 years. Modern X-ray scans later revealed over 30 precision-cut bronze gears, meshing together with the accuracy of a modern clock. Experts eventually realized the device was an ancient analog computer, capable of predicting eclipses, planetary motions, and even the timing of the Olympic Games. Its calculations were based on cycles of the moon and the sun, centuries before Copernicus described the solar system. The gears were so precisely cut that even with today's tools, replicating their accuracy requires advanced machinery. Historians called it an anomaly, something that shouldn't exist. No other device of comparable complexity appeared in history for at least 1,000 years. Some researchers suggested that the knowledge used to build it was inherited from a forgotten civilization, one that vanished, leaving only fragments of impossible technology behind. After early studies in the 1950s, access to the mechanism was restricted. Several of its components reportedly vanished during transfers between laboratories. Only partial documentation remains, and many questions are still unanswered. If the Antikythera mechanism truly came from ancient Greece, then it rewrites the origins of science itself. It means our ancestors didn't simply observe the heavens. They mastered the machinery of the cosmos. But that, too, was a truth too dangerous to remember. Number 6. The Longyou Caves, Impossible, Underground Architecture. In 1992, farmers in China's Zhejiang province drained a pond that had existed for generations. What they found beneath stunned archaeologists: a vast network of perfectly carved caverns, their walls polished smooth as glass. The Longyou Caves extended for miles, each chamber massive enough to hold modern aircraft. Yet not a single tool mark, record, or reference to their creation existed in any Chinese historical text. Carbon dating suggested the caves were over 2,000 years old, but the engineering surpassed anything known from that era. The ceilings rose 30 meters high, supported by intricate pillars, and the walls were covered with uniform chisel patterns, forming repeating geometric waves, as if carved by machines. Engineers estimated that excavating even one chamber would require removing over 1 million cubic meters of rock, an impossible feat with ancient tools. No traces of habitation, soot, or construction debris were found. The sheer precision of the cuts suggested the builders possessed knowledge of acoustics, vibration, or even energy-based carving techniques. When Chinese authorities attempted to study the caves, several reports were quietly retracted, and parts of the site were sealed to the public under preservation orders. If authentic, the Longyou Caves reveal an ancient civilization capable of architectural mastery we still can't reproduce today. Their silence beneath the earth feels intentional, as if they were built not for humans to live in, but to remember something the world was meant to forget. And so, another chapter of forbidden history remained buried in stone. Number 7. The Stone Spheres of Costa Rica, Messages from a Lost Civilization. In the 1930s, while clearing the dense jungles of Costa Rica for banana plantations, workers stumbled upon something astonishing. Hundreds of nearly perfect stone spheres scattered across the land. Some were the size of baseballs. Others weighed more than 15 tons. Their surfaces were flawlessly smooth, carved from solid granodiorite, a rock so hard that shaping it with primitive tools should have been impossible. Archaeologists dated them to more than 2,000 years ago, created by a pre-Columbian culture that left no written record. The spheres were found arranged in geometric patterns, lines, triangles, and even star constellations. Some pointed toward the rising sun during solstices, suggesting astronomical alignment. Yet no quarry or carving tools were ever discovered nearby. When local authorities tried to preserve them, many were destroyed or taken by private collectors. The artifacts that remained in museums lost their labels and context, while several excavation reports vanished. Even today, their true purpose is debated. Navigation markers, symbols of power, or remnants of an advanced knowledge system forgotten by history. Modern engineers who analyzed their symmetry concluded they were made with techniques similar to laser calibration, centuries before the invention of precision instruments. If authentic, the stone spheres prove that ancient people possessed a mathematical understanding of geometry far beyond their supposed capabilities. They whisper of a civilization that mastered form, balance, and cosmic alignment, and then disappeared without a trace. And still, the pattern continued, the evidence growing, the truth slipping further into silence. Number 8. The Yonaguni Monument, the sunken city beneath the sea. In 1986, a diver exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island in Japan made a discovery that defied all logic. A massive underwater structure carved from solid sandstone, stretching over 150 meters long. Sharp edges, flat terraces, stairways, and massive pillars formed what appeared to be the remains of a sunken city. The formation lay 25 meters below the surface, perfectly aligned with cardinal directions, suggesting deliberate human design. Geologists first dismissed it as a natural rock formation shaped by ocean currents. But when researchers mapped the structure in detail, they found symmetrical platforms, right-angled walls, and a grand staircase descending toward a central plaza. The site included what looked like an amphitheater, roadways, and even a pyramid-like temple. Sonar scans revealed additional structures nearby, buried in coral and sediment, forming what might once have been an entire city complex. Dating of sea levels indicated that Yonaguni would have been above water more than 10,000 years ago, long before any known civilization was supposed to exist. If that's true, it predates the Egyptian pyramids by twice as long. Japanese authorities later restricted deep dives, citing preservation, and several researchers who claimed it was man-made lost funding for their expeditions. If authentic, the Yonaguni Monument rewrites the origins of civilization itself. It suggests that advanced societies existed before the last ice age, and that the myths of Atlantis and Lemuria might not be myths at all. Because sometimes the greatest ruins aren't lost in deserts or jungles, but hidden beneath the waves, across continents, across centuries, and across every corner of recorded time. The same story repeats itself. An impossible discovery surfaces, an artifact, a map, a machine, or a monument that doesn't fit within our accepted timeline, and almost immediately, it vanishes. Evidence is lost, scientists are silenced, and history quietly resets itself. What begins as isolated mystery becomes a global pattern of deliberate omission, from Egypt's aerodynamic carvings to Greece's mechanical computers, from China's silent caverns to Japan's sunken temples. These findings should have sparked a revolution in how we see our past. Instead, they triggered denial. Museums called them anomalies. Governments sealed excavation sites, and textbooks remained unchanged. Each revelation that challenged the narrative was treated not as a discovery, but as a threat. Why? Because accepting these discoveries would mean admitting that history as we know it is incomplete, that humanity's origins are older, deeper, and far more advanced than we were taught to believe. It would unravel the comfortable illusion of linear progress and expose the possibility that civilizations have risen and fallen many times before, each erasing the memory of the last. The deeper we dig, the clearer the pattern becomes. Knowledge appears, power reacts, and truth disappears. Our understanding of history is not built on discovery. It is built on permission. What we are allowed to know shapes the boundaries of what we are allowed to imagine. And those boundaries, it seems, were drawn long before we were born. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the artifacts themselves, but the silence that follows them. Every discovery that defies explanation exposes a hidden truth about our species. That we are not the first to reach for the stars, nor the first to lose everything. Civilizations rise, master forces they can barely control, and vanish, leaving only fragments buried in sand, stone, or sea. What if progress is not a straight line, but a circle? What if each era of human history begins again from the ashes of the last, repeating the same cycle of discovery, denial, and disappearance? The ruins beneath our feet may not belong to strangers. They may belong to us. These forbidden discoveries are not proof of aliens or myths. They are proof of memory, a memory our world has chosen to forget. They remind us that history is not written by the victors, but by the survivors, and that truth itself can be buried as easily as a city under the waves. Because in the end, the question isn't whether these discoveries are real. The question is, how much of our own past have we already erased? If 8 forbidden discoveries could rewrite everything we know about human history, imagine how many more still lie hidden, waiting beneath deserts, mountains, and oceans. Each uncovered fragment brings us closer to a truth that someone, somewhere, never wanted us to find. But history has a strange way of resurfacing. Stones speak, oceans reveal, and even silence leaves echoes. The question is not whether these secrets will be found, but whether we'll be ready to face what they mean when they are. If you seek the hidden chapters of our past, stay curious, stay awake, and keep digging for the truth. Because the story of humanity isn't over. It's only been interrupted. And if you want to uncover the next forgotten truth before it disappears again, subscribe before they erase this too.